Good evening and welcome to the GV Wire CMAC Candidates Forum for Fresno Unified School District. We're going to soon be talking with the candidates from Area 3, that is better known as the Sunnyside High School area. Valerie Davis is the incumbent, and she'll be joined tonight by two challengers, teacher Karl Diaz and also businessman Mark T. Ratchford. We're doing these debates or forums because we believe that the Fresno Unified School Board is one of the most important elected bodies in the Fresno area. Fresno Unified deals with a budget now that is more than $1.3 billion, and that is larger than the budget for the city of Fresno. In addition, Fresno's economic future rests with the ability of Fresno Unified to provide the skills to students that they need to compete in today's world and to uplift our economy in general. At GV Wire, we have a strong investment in the educational future of our community. And to go over the ground rules a little bit, we'll have opening statements, then we'll ask as many questions as we can in the time allotted of the candidates so you can get to know them a little better. And we decided to start tonight in alphabetical order, and that means that incumbent Valerie Davis will go first. And in your opening statement, we'd like to learn a little bit about you as a candidate and then what you hope to achieve on the board of Fresno Unified School District. Valerie?
Thank you, Bill, and thank you, CMAC, for this opportunity. As a board member, I've insisted on fiscal responsibility for the district, high achievement for students, and accountability of our employees. I'm committed to ensure all children in classrooms are Fresno Unified's #1 priority. That is why, under my leadership, we lowered classroom sizes by hiring hundreds of new teachers, investing nearly $500 million in building new classrooms while maintaining balanced budgets, clean audits, and upgraded bond materials ratings. As a lifelong resident of Fresno, my husband and I of 35 years, Major Mike Davis, a retired teacher and veteran, have raised 3 daughters in Fresno Unified Schools, and we are proud to be 3 generations of teachers within Fresno Unified. As a board member, I will continue to put our children first as we provide them the best education possible. I would appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Karl, why are you running for the school board?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me at GV Wire. The reason why I'm running for school board is that there's a great vulnerable mass of kids on the southeast side of town. We have special education kids who haven't been served the way they deserve, and their parents come to the school board, and that's one of the things that's a common theme during the 3 minutes of community time at school boards. We also have English language learners, dreamers, and kids at risk involved in the probation area. I'm a lifelong resident of Fresno. My family has been here since 1914. My grandmother came from Chihuahua, Mexico when she was 3 years old and still lives in Selma, California. Our family has deep roots here. My father is a World War II and Korean War vet. He passed away, and my mom was a local teacher as well. I want to bring a consistent effort to make sure that the vulnerable kids in our area get what they deserve, and thank you very much.
Mark?
Hello, my name is Mark Ratchford. Thank you for this opportunity. I was born in Pasadena, California. I'm pretty much spent most of my time here. I've been in business here in Fresno, the area, for over 25 years in the water conditioning and purification business. My wife is a school teacher for Fresno Unified. The things that I see going on in this whole situation is there's a lot of talk and not any action. And Valerie here has been around 14 plus years in this, and we need some new blood, and we need some new direction, and that's why I'm running.
Thank you. And I raised the issue of the budget, $1.3 billion, bigger than the city of Fresno's. What I'd like to hear from the candidates is how do you approach this budget? Would you have different priorities than the board has now? Anything you think that the board is doing well and things you would change? And Karl, let's start with you on this question.
Sure. As a past president of local CTA union local in Madera County, I've studied budget for years, especially in my capacity as a negotiations chairperson. I know how to decipher budget. I've gone through the National University Administration program, and I've learned the codes and how things should be ascertained to where things go. In negotiating, there should always be a balance for the children, the employees, and if you do the right job, you'll stay afloat, everybody will get their job done, and we'll have a successful group of kids. Unfortunately, from what I've seen, is that on the southeast side of town, there just isn't enough being spent on our side of town. Our kids are responsible for the status of Fresno Unified being having under the LCFF having gone from $6,000 per ADA all the way to 11 and to $14,000 for kids who have are under probation or their foster youth. So there's money that needs to be spent, and we need to be able to spend it in the right manner.
Mark, what do you make of Fresno Unified's budget, and what changes might you make?
Well, as a businessman, I have to make a budget. I've never had a problem. You can't just spend more money than you make. That's what happens all the time here. I see people going across asking the board for different programs. They want more money, and money is obviously not the answer, because we have kids that are graduating at 20% or at grade level when they graduate high school. I've walked around the streets here. I talk to people that have graduated from these schools. They can't read. That's setting people up for failure. And if you can't read, you can't understand what you're signing. And that's this person here has been on this board 14 years, and she just, hey, that's just too bad. I mean, that's one of her statements. School, sorry, you didn't make it. And that's obvious because it happens all the time. And the state average is 37%. So when you ask these people that are responsible for why are these grade levels so low, they say, what's your goal? Well, we'd like to go up 10%. What happened to 100%? You can't let kids continue to graduate at this level and just push them through and say, hey, you graduated. And they move the kids that are really bad into other areas where they're not even counted as a dropout.
So Mark, just for point of clarification before Valerie Davis has her turn, what do you mean by percent, 20%, 37%?
The grade, when you graduate from high school, the average is 21%. And I guarantee those numbers are not exactly accurate. I have a lot of people in the business that I'm in, retired teachers. A lot of teachers have gotten out early because they cannot do what they do best. My job as a board member is to provide the tools, the buildings, and what they need to do their job. And you can't keep just throwing money at the problem, because that's what they do all over this country. We need to do things here locally, where you can look me in the eye and say, this isn't right. And I want to make sure that I want to look through everywhere and see where the problems are.
Thank you. Valerie, normally 90 seconds, but let's go at least 2 minutes here to give you opportunity to respond.
Thank you. When I started on the board 14 years ago, our graduation rate was 63%. Last year in 2017, it was 84%. We have the highest rate we've ever achieved in Fresno Unified at this time, and the highest college going rate. You can check our rates with how many kids go to college in another district just north of us, and we outsend more kids to college. What we do with our money is with the local control funding formula, we have 40 designated schools. They're elementary, 40 of our 106 schools, and they have a half an hour longer every day, and their teachers meet 10 days extra to do lesson plans and study and new strategies. One of the new initiatives we did this summer was the African American Acceleration Academic. Our poorest performing students in our district are African Americans, and we've spent some considerable amount of money. We had some 348 children attend with 87% parent participation, and they retained some 5.4 months extra when they would have lost during a 6-week summer vacation. They would have lost 2+ months of education. So while we are not there statewide, it is a work in progress, and we try to look at the 11,231 students that are in the Sunnyside area of some 14 schools and uplift them. We have our test scores broken down per grade, and we are now going to calculate, the state of California is going to calculate our graduation rate differently. And the fact that the cohort will be however many ninth graders begin, that should be the ending 4 years later of seniors. So we will have, we'll have to recalculate and do that.
So to understand you a stricter graduation rate and students that go off into, for example, for-profit charter schools, they will be tracked, their performance?
We don't have any of their performance levels.
But I mean, if they start at Fresno Unified, that's been one of the criticisms about the graduation rate not being accurate, is students that leave and go elsewhere are not counted against Fresno Unified, they're not tracked.
Statewide, the legislature have not moved toward a total accounting with you start pre-K at this number and then, you know, and track you even if you leave Fresno Unified to Sanger or to Madera or to Los Angeles or Sacramento. We don't have that type of accounting yet in the state of California. But I would be in favor of tracking every student.
You know, I want to say something here. She's talking about graduation. Big deal. They can't read and write. At 80% are failing when they graduate. That's what I'm talking about. This is fluff.
You've raised the issue, Karl. We need to let you be able to weigh in on this question.
Thank you very much, Bill. Well, you know, I'm really glad graduation rates are up, and I really do believe that kids who graduate are becoming more and more prepared. I think we're doing almost as much as we can, but there's room for a lot more growth. Well, you know, with the graduation rates that Valerie, Ms. Davis, excuse me, mentioned, they're a little skewed because about 4 years ago, Governor Brown eliminated the requirement for KC testing, and kids who had just received certificates during that time were now awarded the diploma. So the statistics are a little skewed. Most districts, well, probably all districts, because of that, grew in their graduation rate. Also, with African Americans, I just came back from the NAACP student forum at Fresno State, and you know, both of my competitors here failed to go there. I think it's very important to see kids who are successful, the role models of the future, and that group just energizes me. I'm a teacher. That's one of the reasons why I do teach, because you know, at 53 years old, I'm starting to get a little tired, but as soon as I'm around the kids with their dreams and their desires and their future, I get energized, and I really believe that we can do a better job, but let's don't put down kids who have graduated now, because it is tougher to become successful. But these kids, they can do it. We have to have confidence in our kids, but we have to get involved in getting the at-risk kids to come up to those levels.
Thank you. The board recently gave Superintendent Bob Nelson a favorable review for his first year in the position as the permanent appointee. Mark, how do you view Mr. Nelson's performance?
He's not a politician. He's a teacher. And as you said earlier, I mean, the man is a good man. He has children. I understand he has a special need child of his own, and he's also adopted 4 children that one of them has a special needs also. So as far as, you know, being the kind of person that can absorb what a child is going through and doing that sort of job, that's great. You know, we are running a $1.3 billion business. I look at it as a business also. You have to make hard decisions. You have to make feelings are great, but when you're in business, you need to make decisions that are not always going to make people feel good. He is a good man. I don't know enough about him. I haven't met him personally, so I can't give you any of that. I know people that know him, and everyone that I know him I respect them and they respect him.
Thank you. And Valerie, you were in position to evaluate Mr. Nelson. How do you think he fared in his first year?
It's a tough job, and there is a steep learning curve. But he met quite a few of his goals, and of course there's more goals, and I appreciate his leadership.
Karl?
Well, I have I know people who personally know him. I understand he lives in Madera County, and he hasn't been on the job long enough to really blame for anything, because he's had to really shore up that position as a superintendent from being one of controversy to being one who's focused on the betterment of our kids in Fresno City. I believe that I really love to work with him, and I think under his leadership our district can grow and be more accomplished. I don't see it as a business. I don't see Fresno Unified as a business. We're dealing with kids. Our kids should never be a for-profit type of thing. We should be breaking even. Okay, we should be taking the thoughts that we need to spend every dime on our kids becoming accomplished and being successful. Okay, we need to make sure that there's more going to the kids who are more at risk. We need to innovate in our classrooms. We need to bring schools within schools to make learning more individualized. We need to stop charter schools in their tracks by just becoming better. Charter schools cannot grow if we are doing our job to the full extent. If this is the case, we're going to be we're the 4th largest district. We're going to be the model. That's what I'm aiming at.
Thank you. The idea of a parcel tax has been floated to supplement the district's budget. Valerie Davis, is this a good idea or not?
Well, we're going to poll it, and we're going to work with our teachers. And what we were looking for in it was mainly reducing the class sizes. With, like I said, 11,811 kids in the Sunnyside region, counting the Cambridge, our alternative ed school, and Phoenix, our other alternative ed school in the Sunnyside region. We need more classrooms. We need more space. We need more technology, and it is a big ask. So we're going to explore that with our voters. They've always been very generous with us when we needed a bond, even when board members on this board chose to work against it. Our voters have come through for us.
Karl Diaz, what do you think about this parcel tax idea?
I believe that I support that idea, but we need to make sure that the citizenry understands that we're going to spend our money where it needs to be counted. I'm happy that we're getting that certain people have chosen not to continue on as board members because any conflict of interest when you're dealing with the public's money should not be there. We should have no influence from people who are getting contracts from Fresno Unified. That's why I would never accept if they'd never offered because they would definitely know my position that I would not accept any money from any kind of contractors or any kind of business people. Business people, CEOs are used to running things themselves. They're not very democratic in their endeavors. They think that they know what's best, and we don't. The public knows what's best. That's why we vote, and that's why I believe if this passes, it'll be a good thing.
Mark Ratchford, what do you think about a parcel tax?
I listen to this man right here just talk about spending people's money. It's not his money. And I look at every single thing on my tax bill, and it's ridiculous. And obviously, money is not the issue, because what's been going on 14 years with this Valerie next door here. My wife is a teacher. She's now teaching second grade, and she was a special needs teacher. And this is one of the reasons why I got pushed into doing this, because my wife went through a very serious issue that was partially about this. The board it was part of the board's decision about my wife. For a year, she had no job. She didn't know what was going to happen. Now, because she has 2 credentials, she's teaching at Story Elementary. And the kids, half of the kids that are in there, she has 22 students. 5 of the bottom half of the class, they're probably going to make it through the class, but there's 5 of those kids that should not have come past first grade. They're not at grade level. And it holds all the other kids back. 5 of the kids they're probably 3rd, 4th grade level. So I have direct feedback from my wife every day, and I know what's going on in those classrooms.
I don't think you could take anecdotal stories and personalized history to judge an entire district. I come from a county office of education where the job of special education is forefront. And I understand that teachers are inundated with class size and with IEPs that they have to get accomplished that takes away from actually interacting with the kids. What we do need to do is to invest in more para-educators and more credentialed teachers. We need to make sure that we have alliances with Fresno State and other local universities like Pacific to make sure that we get our credentialed teachers. We need to lower not only the student-teacher ratio, but the overall student-adult ratio in those classes and in any at-risk classroom. Because, for instance, the kids on probation, later they're going to get plenty of ratio adult to them in the court system. Unfortunately, that's how it works. Our prisons are getting more money. If you looked at the public sector in people getting paid by tax dollars, you'll see that corrections officers make more than any teacher in our county. So let's reverse that. Let's don't go back and fight old battles. Let's look forward.
So I'm going to cut you off there, Karl. And you've raised a question, one I wasn't originally going to ask, but the issue has been raised, and we'll let Valerie and Mark weigh in because special education has been brought up. an outside organization of considerable acclaim has made specific recommendations about what Fresno Unified should do with its special education program. Thus far, the district has begun to implement some of them, but the public really doesn't know. How close is Fresno Unified going to adhere to the recommendations that have been made by the Council of Great City Schools? Valerie, how do you assess special ed since it's been raised, and are you in favor of following what the report recommended?
The recommendations. Yes, I hope that Mr. Ratchford's wife is a teacher of 22 students that with 5 kids failing or below grade level, that she can access some parental support or some support outside of the classroom with tutorings or Khan Academy or after-school help or teaching fellows or something. We try to help our students, and teachers have a huge job, and I support teachers. My husband, myself are both teachers, as well as our daughter and a number of our family members. But the Council of Great City Schools did come out with a number of recommendations. Some we have to put funding toward, dollar to fix things, and some of our parents have been coming in and wanting more inclusion at their schools. So the special ed dilemma issue is not one size fits all, Bill. You have to take every school, you have to take every student and find out what best needs, you can meet the needs of our special ed students. The autism spectrum is quite diverse. When you say special needs, at Story we have a medically fragile therapy wing, and we've got some very medically fragile students there. And throughout the district, at every school, special ed in the Sunnyside region makes up 11%. And so there's lots of needs, and what we do and how we do it takes a lot of careful thought and planning, and not just some knee-jerk fix this, fix that, but some good thought and planning. Thank you.
Mark, your thought about the special education program in Fresno Unified?
Well, I'll tell you, the special needs, SPED, the people running that whole division don't know what they're doing. My wife could run circles around them, and that was one of the reasons why a lot of people have retired that were in that division, people that knew what they were doing. There was the direct supervisor that placed the students in my wife's room and in that area. She had no experience, didn't know what she was doing, and one incident, there was one student, a boy that is in a...
Mr. Ratchford, I'd be real careful. We have HIPAA laws, and I would
yeah,
not
well, we're not
divulge a lot
talking
of-
about perfect names, so thank you, Valerie, for your help. I appreciate your help on that.
Make sure that you respect that
So
of
anyway,
our students.
thank you for your help. So I'm just trying to say that the people that run that whole thing do not know what they're doing. And as people retired, it put my wife, and they overloaded her classroom, and created situations. And one of these students, he had moved from one house to another, and the first student bus would not take this student there without having at least 2. So they put 2 other boys in this bus to take this one student there. And they had attended the schools for the whole 6 years, 6th grade, and created a major situation in my wife's classroom, and with no regard. She could handle the complete chaos that they put in her classroom, and that's why they did that.
So that raises the question of, you represent the whole area, the Sunnyside area. If you're elected, are you going to be able to separate what goes on in your wife's classroom from
She's
what
not in
goes
that
on
classroom any
district-wide?
longer. I'm just trying to tell you that overall, I mean, we're talking about the whole Fresno Unified. It's not just isolated to one classroom. you talk to other people, other teachers that are in these classrooms. The support level, you know, everybody wants to throw money at it. It's not money. It's better organization. That's the bottom line.
So that brings up maybe the toughest question I'm going to ask tonight, a little bit theoretical. But
Can I get on that real quick, Bill?
You raise special education.
Yeah, but
it's going to have to be quick.
Okay, it is about money. The funding model for special ed hasn't changed since before I was became a teacher over 25 years ago. We need to have board members who are willing to advocate in Sacramento to make sure that Governor Brown and the rest of the legislation understands this. Okay, there's been talk about doing it over the last few years, but it has not been done. We need to go and actually go with these stories and tell. There's a natural teacher attrition right now, and we do need to have people coming to Fresno. We need to make it a job that is respected and a job that is well paid. That's not throwing money at something. That's paying people who are professionals the right salaries for the job that they have to do.
Thank you. Now my question is the one that I think is difficult for board members, because on Fresno Unified you have 7 trustees that represent 7 specific areas. You're going to feel pressure from your constituents to build a new facility, make this better, that kind of thing. And yet what Fresno really needs is for Fresno Unified as a whole to really rise up and attain great educational excellence or educational attainment. There's no one here tonight that doesn't agree with that. Fresno Unified has to do better. When Fresno Unified does better, our whole community will prosper. So how do you balance the specific needs of your district versus this idea of making Fresno Unified the entire school district better? And Mark, we'll start with you on that one.
Well, everybody wants their kids to go to Clovis Unified. Why? There's a lot of reasons why. I don't know them all, but I think we should look to some of their leadership, because our schools, we have a bigger budget. We should be the stars, and we're not. And I keep hearing we need more money, we need more money. You know, I pay a lot on taxes. I'm sick and tired of paying. And this constantly hitting the taxpayer. You got people making more money than the guy paying the bill. That's not right. So, and money is not the answer, because I also lived in Madera Ranchos for quite a long time. And we have Golden Valley Unified there because we didn't want anything to do with Madera. It's because they don't know what they're doing either. They have money, money, money. It's always money. And the teachers don't need the money. We need to do a better job teaching our children and getting past this. We're at 20% when they're at grade level, at 20% when they graduate. That is a failure. That's an absolute failure. So you're setting kids up. I work in a business that I can't hire people because they can't read and write. They don't know how to act. I can't have them go into someone's home. So I'm glad to see that we're starting to look into this career tech education. That's a good place to look. So thank you.
Thank you. Valerie, how do you balance this and you've felt this pressure, so explain your thinking process about how hard you fight to get something for Sunnyside versus the total needs of the district.
Well, we try to get our staff to prioritize, and we try to look at our facilities and look at programs with worse first in the mix there. And the council.
What does worse first mean?
If it's the worst, we fix it first. Things that have been neglected, we do not have a robust deferred maintenance plan. And a lot of our schools are much older, and as you found out this summer, we had lead in some water pipes. And the technology that we have to bring to our students with the bandwidth is something we have to work for in our schools. But the Council of Great City Schools, working with Harvard, will develop this next summer governance for excellence. And I think that's the policy level of where the board needs to be, governing for excellence. We're the policy makers. We need to take a look at everything that the district has and what the staff has put together and prioritize and find out and put things in place that will make our students succeed even more.
Same question, Karl, with just a little extra flavor. You said earlier at tonight's forum you've been active in union organization for teachers, so address the voter that might think, yeah, if I vote for this guy, he's always going to be for the union.
That's a good question, Bill. Thank you for the opportunity to address that. I was on negotiations during the Great Recession, and when Madera County Office of Education couldn't afford to keep the schools running at the levels that needed to be running to make sure that our students were successful, we went back to the negotiations table, and I was the first one to say we need to give back some of this contract. We gave up plenty of days, and it was enough to make sure that everything was afloat and the kids had what they need. I always will have kids in mind. Again, as I stated, my daughter goes to Kings Canyon Middle School. What we need to do is make sure that we do prioritize the kids who are at risk, and when we lift up those kids, as any community, if the kids who are most vulnerable, that's the true way to make sure that we're doing a good job for everyone. On the south side, I happen to have gone to Roosevelt High School, class of '83, and we were using that pool since the 50s. All my brothers went there, class of 70, 74, 77, my sister in 80. And we were all using the same pool, rundown pool, and it was the last one to get renovation. They're still working on it. So we do need to make sure that those funds go where they belong first. And if we can bring up that population, everybody's going to come up, because our community will be more robust. There will be people who can fill jobs, and we will grow. Fresno City is an area that I'm proud of. When I lived outside of it, I always looked to it when I drove through visiting my parents, that it's going to call me back, and it did.
So two items that have garnered a lot of headlines in the last couple of years. They're kind of what we call the retail politics, not philosophical, not big worldview, and that deals with student discipline in the classroom, and then also dress code. We have examples of students were being treated differently about what they could wear depending on what campus they went to. Valerie, you've been serving on the board. Give us your assessment of where Fresno Unified is on classroom discipline. Is the district hitting the sweet spot finally? And then what do you make of Fresno Unified's kind of decentralized dress code?
Thank you, Bill. Good questions. Classroom discipline. Well, in the Sunnyside region, we started a few years ago what we called restorative justice. We have worked with the staff. The training session cost over $1 million, and throughout the entire region of the 14 schools are learning those practices, restorative justice. We're finding less fights. I have statistics of how many fights and how many expulsions and suspensions we have at every school from the 17-18 school year. And our numbers are down. As large as almost 1,000 children at Kings Canyon Middle School. They have 24 last year. At Sunnyside, they had 8. And that population is 2,700 plus kids. So restorative justice is working, and we're going through it from K to 12. Dress code, we're working on dress code, and we're working on that's not a distraction or something that's rude or defiant or dirty, nasty. And we have gang colors we have to be sensitive to, and no football and basketball, hockey, whatever, soccer logos. So it's a work in progress.
Well, you know, those statistics, again, inside the school, perhaps there's less fights, where there's more eyes looking at the kids inside. But what's going on just outside the schools is something else. Just the other day when I was getting off the freeway on Chestnut and coming down to Larry, I saw a big group of kids that were close to Chestnut, and I knew exactly what was going on. As a Court Community School teacher, I knew what was going to happen. And so I pulled around and I saw two boys who were face to face and a big group of kids around there. And so I got out of my car and I go, hey, what's going on? Don't you guys need to be moving on? And one girl came by and she stated that, who are you? And I said, I'm a teacher. And she said, where do you teach? I said, it doesn't really matter, but I already took pictures of everybody, so you guys should be moving around and getting out of here. And so they did, and that's the kind of thing. I often see kids congregating around Winco, which is off of Kings Canyon and Peach, during class time. This shouldn't be happening. Okay.
So it shouldn't be happening, but what's the answer? Isn't that a Fresno PD situation?
The answer is to make sure that, for one thing, we have to engage kids in elementary school in a positive way. Kids who cannot read by the time they're in second, third grade, by fourth grade they're acting out because they're frustrated in class. These are the kids who become magnets for kids who are bored, and they eventually can be attracted to gangs. As a Court Community School teacher, that's a very familiar story. With the Fresno PD, I don't want the Fresno PD to be too involved with them. We need to get them into situations where they are going to much smaller classrooms within the school, and if they continue to act out or to be defiant, especially to teachers, then there are places where they can go. Okay, we need to make it very safe at school and around the school. Okay, you're much more likely to be injured in a school-related fight or in the campus or outside the campus than a school shooting. So we need to be very aware of who's who and what are they doing.
Mark Ratchford? School discipline, dress code, campus safety?
I believe that the kids are not pushed hard enough. They don't have enough work to do in the classroom. There's not enough homework. In other words, they're not fully engaged. If they have to work harder, then they're going to, they're not going to have so much time to look into other trouble. I know myself when I was a child in school. If you don't have much to do, you start twiddling your fingers, you start thinking about other things, you're not working to produce better grades. I have looked into the GO program. I've also liked the charter schools. This fellow here next door doesn't like it. They push the kids more. The parents that have their children go to those schools, they're more involved. If the parents are more involved, they are their kids are going to be, there's just more involvement. And, we're living in a society today that we're so busy, we don't have time to spend with our children. And we're expecting the school to raise the kids. And, it's unfortunate. We're chasing this dollar so we can pay more taxes, so we can pay these schools more money. And we can't enjoy our children in our lives. And that's what, we need to look into more. The kids, when they come out of school, like I said, just yesterday I showed a young man this. He couldn't even read it. And he's a graduate of Fresno City Schools.
I work at a charter school. I've worked at a charter school for many years. It's unionized, and we are very aware of how successful we have become.
The thing about charter schools is there's a very low student-teacher ratio in charter schools. I have 28 kids in my independent study class. That takes a lot of money when you do that. And for someone who's really worried about...
How does it take money? What are you talking about?
Because of
You're
the
there teaching the kid.
student-teacher ratio. That's what
If they're
we're talking
working,
about.
if they're working.
Those kids are learning.
Okay.
So
you're
I wanna
Mr.
be
Money. I
clear,
mean,
though.
I just can't believe
Advocating
it.
more charter schools? Fresno
No, I'm
Unified
advocating
should be-
smaller class sizes because that's what it takes. Eventually, we're going to have spending a heck of a lot more money when they're getting to the criminal justice system. I want to have more paraeducators and more teachers per ratio with the kids who are at risk, so that we are more attractive and we are more successful than any charter school. Our charter school is run by our county office. Okay, it's not a for-profit charter school. Nothing should be for-profit with kids. Okay, these are the things that need to be implemented, and when somebody is more worried about paying taxes than the education of a kid, then they shouldn't be on the school board. Okay, we pay our taxes. Yes, we do. We live in a society. We have roads that we use. We have hospitals. We have the fire department. I'm glad that I pay taxes so I can have all that, and I can have schools where my children can go and be successful.
So let's leave it right there on that, because we want to leave time for each of you to make your final pitch to the voters that are in the Sunnyside High School area, Area 3. And just so voters know, Fresno County Elections Office will be sending out your voter guide about October 3rd. You can start vote by mail balloting on October 8th, so that's coming up fairly quickly. And of course, the election's on November 6th. And we're going to start with Valerie Davis. Valerie, you have 60 seconds to tell us why voters should put their trust in you for the next 4 years.
Thank you. Thank you, CMAC, for this opportunity. Voters should put their trust in me because I've been doing the work. I've raised my children. I am a teacher. I've worked in the district, and I'm really proud of the work that our teachers are doing, and they need more resources, focus for their things, and we need more computers. All of our tests are done on a computer, and we don't have a computer in every child's hand on test day. They share the computers in 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, all the way to the 11th grade. And I would appreciate your vote to continue the work that's getting done in Fresno Unified. Thank you.
Karl Diaz, why should voters put their trust in you for the next 4 years?
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you for having me here with CMAC. I would like to thank Valerie for working in the school system as well. But I've been a teacher for 25 years. I've been on the site as a union representative to understand teacher needs in things like special education and work with at-risk kids. I understand the inner workings of districts and how you have to be able to get along with a lot of different people and to be very cautious and very diplomatic in making sure that you don't become an enemy to someone, that you become their colleague. And I think that I could work with everybody in the district office under the common cause of helping kids. I just believe that our kids have been neglected too much in the South Side. It's nothing personal, but I see it. If you travel in our side of town, you will see that kids are in despair, and we need to change all that.
Thank you. Mark Ratchford?
I think Valerie, she's been around 14 years. I think she needs to, I mean, hey, you've done good, great, but it's time for some new blood. We also need to think about our children. I mean, I love it because this is something that Mr. Bonilla told me. He says, I'm sick of people that say it's all for the children and they don't mean it. I've seen pictures of $1 million worth of books in boxes in a dumpster at Sunnyside High School. If that's the way we spend our money and we want to get more, that's not a good way to invest our cash. I think the kids, when you let them graduate and they can't read and write, how are they supposed to function in society? You're going to get in trouble, just like this man here says. You're going to be frustrated as a person. You can't deal with people mentally, look them in the eyes. There needs to be some changes back to a little bit of old-fashioned way of doing things, and that's what I would look to do.
Thank you, and I want to thank all of our viewers for tuning in. All of the Fresno Unified candidates races are very important. Be sure to tune in tomorrow night when we'll broadcast 2 other forums with Fresno Unified trustees, and be sure to vote on November 6th. I'm Bill McEwen. I want to thank everyone at CMAC and at GV Wire for helping make this production possible tonight.